สวัสดีครับทุกคนวันนี้กลับมาเจอกับเจอีกครั้งหนึ่งนะครับแล้วก็กลับมาเจอกับคุณริชาร์ดอีกครั้งหนึ่งด้วยนะครับในการติว IELTS ของพวกเรานะครับผ่านมา2ครั้งแล้วเป็นเรื่องของ writing 1 กับ 2นะครับวันนี้จะมาเป็นเรื่องของ speaking บ้างนะครับหลายคนคงจะรออยู่ว่าเฮ้ยอยากจะเรียน speaking แล้ว writing เนี่ยโหท่องมาเยอะแล้วแต่ speaking ไม่รู้จะไปฝึกสำเนียงที่ไหนจะเอาเทคนิคที่ไหนนะครับวันนี้ครับโอกาสมาถึงแล้วครับวันนี้คุณRichard Hallows นะครับจะมาแชร์เทคนิคว่าทำยังไงให้ตอนที่เราสอบ speaking ของ IELTS เนี่ยทำให้เราได้คะแนนเยอะขึ้นนะครับเพราะเชื่อว่าหลายๆคนเนี่ยก็น่าจะกังวลเรื่องนี้เหมือนกันนะครับเราไม่รอช้าครับเรา say hi to Richard กันดีกว่าสวัสดีครับ Richard hello
everybody how are you
great how are you
I'm very well thank you I've just had some chicken soup
oh I had a noodle
did you Very good. Let's talk about the food we ate rather than talking about IELTS. No, okay. Let's talk about IELTS.
So, today you're gonna teach us how to speak in English.
I am.
Is that?
Well, kind of. I need to finish off a little bit about writing that I didn't have time in the last lesson. So I'm going to recap.The main points that I talked about last time, and then just talk a little bit about grammar.
Okay.
And then we'll switch topics and we'll switch over to speaking. Okay.
Cool.
And I'm not going to teach you to speak, but I'm going to teach you how to approach the speaking exam and use the language that you have to maximum effect to get the best score. Okay.
Okay.
So, shall I begin?Yes,
you can.
All right. So I've got my notes here from last time. So if you hear some paper noises, it's me referring to what I talked about.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's just go over a little bit what we talked about. Last time I spoke about writing task 2, and I talked about what the examiner is looking for. Do you remember? And I talked about task response.That's how well you answer the question. I talked about coherence and cohesion. Any ideas, Jay?
Like the story should go in the same thing, right?
Yeah, okay. So there needs to be a logical flow, a good shape to your writing. The ideas need to go boom, 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 not da, 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 da. Okay? And cohesion was the locking together of the ideas using linking words, using pronouns, using synonyms, different things.
Okay.
I also talked about lexical resource. What's another word for lexis, Jay?
I don't know. Anthony?
He really wasn't listening. Vocabulary. So this is how much vocabulary you use. And we talked about.different aspects of vocabulary. For example, the examiner wants to see that you can use vocabulary flexibly. So you know the noun and the verb and the adverb and the adjective. He wants to see that you know which words go together very naturally. And I gave you examples. For example, we have smoker. I think we have smoke. We have drink. And I said, is it a strong drink?A heavy drink or a loud drink?
Strong drink.
Very good. And I made the example of a strong drink being a gin and tonic with lots of gin and not much tonic.
I love gin and tonic.
I'm sure you do. That was collocation. We talked about flexibility. We talked about precision using the exact word. Is it a road or is it a highway, for example? And some other aspects about vocabulary.You can go back and look at the previous lesson to get more detail.
Okay.
But the one thing that I didn't talk about because we didn't have much time was grammar. So I'm going to talk about that now. Can we look at my slides now?
Yes, we can.
Now, hang on.
Okay.
Oh, do you know what I haven't done? You'll have to let me scroll through here. Sorry, guys. Bear with, as we say.Bear with. Look how many slides we looked at. Lord. So many. Oh, so many. And then we got to here. Okay?
yes
Let me talk about grammar. Okay. The examiner is looking for two main things in terms of grammar. Okay. Looking for range of grammar. This means how much different grammar do you use?
okay
Part of this is using complex sentences. Okay, now I've mentioned complex sentences before, and I'll explain them in a little bit more detail today. But complex sentences are going to be part of a bigger range of grammar. For example, using the active or the passive voice, okay? Or using a range of tenses, things like that. So this is going to be a variety of grammar. And then also accuracy. So accuracy means being correct, not making mistakes. Okay? So the way that this is calculated, it's not really calculated, but the impression the examiner has is how many mistakes you make, the number of errors. Now, some of these errors will be big errors and some will be small. And I'll show you kind of some of the examples of big or small errors. Okay, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. But the most important aspect of grammar range is your ability to use complex sentences. Now, here, what is a complex sentence? So I've talked about this before. I'm going to give you some examples which should make it super clear if it's not already clear. Okay?
Okay.
So, here's a sentence. If the government reduced the cost of public transport, more people would use it. Now we can see here, if I just get my highlighter, we can see here we've got if here, and we've got a comma. This clause is the dependent clause. So that means this clause cannot be on its own. So if I say, if the government reduced the cost of public transport, you say, what?
So what?
What? Yeah, so what? So we need that second clause, okay? The second clause is more people would use it. Now, if you know your grammar, you'll see that this is a conditional number 2, but we don't need to know that. That's just grammar, okay? We need to use sentences with if, and then here we use the past tense. It's not really the past. It's called the subjunctive. Doesn't matter. It looks like the past.
Don't remember it.
Okay, good for you. A comma here, and then in this clause, would plus use. Use is the infinitive or base form, okay? So if the government reduced the cost of public transport, more people would use it. So this is something which is hypothetical. That means it's imaginary. It's not real. It could happen, but it hasn't happened. Do you think, Jay, do you think that the government is going to reduce the cost of the BTS?
Never.
Never. But if they did reduce the cost of the BTS, comma, more people would use it. Okay? So it's hypothetical. So this is a good example of a complex sentence that you can put into your paragraphs.
Okay.
Now, another example of a complex sentence is using the word although. Okay? So let's think about, again, I mean, I drive in Bangkok, I drive in Thailand, and I think lots of drivers are very good drivers, but a significant number of drivers in Thailand, in Bangkok, drive, in my opinion, dangerously. Okay? So I can make this sentence. Although most people obey traffic rules, comma, so what? So what? What, Richard? What? Well, a small minority continue to drive recklessly. And if that's you and I'm driving down the highway, back off. Anyway, that's just my personal appeal. Anyway, recklessly means, another word for this, Jay? Recklessly? Dangerously. Jay?
Dangerously. Oh, okay. I was thinking like not careful.
Yes. not careful, carelessly, recklessly, dangerously. Yeah. Okay. So most people follow traffic rules, but a small minority continue to drive recklessly. This is another complex sentence. So these are your magic words. If you make a sentence with if you make a sentence with although, and don't forget your commas, then you are making a complex sentence. Okay? We don't need lots of grammar.
We should do it, right? We should use the complex sentence in our writing.
He really hasn't been listening, has he? Yes. Complex sentences are one of the key things that the examiner is looking for in terms of grammar range. Okay?
Okay.
Look at you. Fantastic. Look at this. What about this idea? Those means people. Okay? So those who use the BTS usually arrive at work in the morning, I'm thinking, usually arrive before those who choose to drive to work. So I don't know, I know lots of people watching are not in Bangkok, but if you're in Bangkok, driving in the morning takes a long time.
It's insane.
Yes, I mean, it's a nightmare, isn't it? Or traffic jams. If you take the BTS, if you take the MRT, it's usually quicker. So we can make this sentence, those meaning people, those who use the BTS. So this clause is defining, it's describing those. We could say those people who what? Well, those people who use the BTS usually arrive before those. This is another complex sentence, who choose to drive to work. Okay, no commas, no commas, because we cannot take that out. It has to be there. Okay, no commas there. The final type of complex sentence is this.
Yes.
If we look at the purple here and not the blue, we can say the government are developing a larger mass transit system. Mass transit system is just a formal word for like a train system. Yeah. So the government is developing a larger mass transit system. Well, that's true. They're building more MRT, BTS. There's the nice trains coming out of Bangsu. And then here we've got, thank you. Here we've got this clause, who would like to decrease car usage. So this is describing something that about the government. Okay, the government would like to decrease car usage. Okay, and they'd like to do this. So we'd make this our main clause and this our extra information clause with commas. The commas allow us to take the clause out and the purple still makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Two types of relative clause here, defining and non-defining. I often call these extra information because you can take it out.
Okay.
All right. So these are the 4 types of complex sentences that you can use, and you should try to use them.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to look at the if kind of, hang on, before that.
Not yet.
Oh yeah, this is just other grammar. So for example, you could use active passive. Okay, let's compare this if sentence and this if sentence.
Okay.
They're saying the same thing, but one of them is using the active voice, we call it, and one is using the passive voice. Now, you know what I'm going to ask you, Mr. J. Which one is active and which one is passive?
The first one is active.
You're on fire today. It is. The first one is active. So if the government did this, okay, we've got subject, government, did, the verb. If the government reduced, verb, okay, active. More people would use it. But we could also say, if the cost of travel were, so we've got be plus reduced. That's V3, verb 3, past participle. Were reduced by the government, but we don't need to say that. More people would use the public transport system. So which sentence do you think will impress the examiner more, Jay? The first one or the second one?
It should be the second one, right?
Of course. So here you've got a complex sentence with the passive. The examiner will be so excited. Really? He'll be like, I'm 9.
Richard, what if I use the passive sentence all the time? Would it make me getting more score?
No. So you want to, right, okay. I'm so glad you asked me that. Really, in natural formal language, you need to use a mixture of active and passive.
Okay.
There are certain types of writing where there's a tendency, where we tend to use the passive more. For example, in task 1, you may have to describe a process. Now, I didn't talk about that, but you might have to describe a process where you might say, this is done, then this is done. I don't know how to make a pen. Well, the plastic is rolled and the ink is injected. I don't know. I see. But that would be more use of the passive. But normally in a writing task 2, you would use a mixture of the two. Okay. It's a good idea to look at model essays on the internet and look for examples of active and passive, and clauses, in fact, as well. Now, okay. But no, good question. Good question. Okay. Now, if we move on to looking at where we can put these complex sentences, here I've got an example in a problem solution essay. So, what is a problem solution essay? Well, it's a type of task 2 essay where you are given a problem and you are asked to solve that problem, to offer some solutions. Now, remember, your solutions don't have to be good solutions. It doesn't matter as long as they are relevant. Okay? So let's imagine my favorite problem, always talking about this, is traffic congestion. Another word for traffic congestion is traffic jams. So traffic congestion, not congestions, that's my typing, is increasing every year. How could this problem be solved? Well, then we want to state the solution. Okay? I think one obvious solution is to reduce the price of traveling on public transportation. So the idea is, oh, it's so cheap on the train and I should go on the train because it's cheaper. Okay? So we've given a solution, but there's no complex sentence here yet. Okay. But then we can evaluate the solution. Evaluate means to say, oh, that's a good idea, or it's okay, it's not a bad idea, you know? So here we've got, if one of the solutions is to reduce the price of traveling on public transportation. Next sentence, if this were to be done, comma, traveling by bus or metro system would seem much more attractive. The first clause, if this, remember, is a good example of cohesion, referring back to previous ideas. Now, if this were to be done, active or passive, Jay?
It's passive.
Yay! Were, and then to be done. Okay? Be, and then, anyway. Traveling by bus or metro system would seem. Remember the would? So, okay. There's our second conditional, would seem. Complex, passive. That first clause, if this were to be done, you can use it as like a stamp in your essay. So that can always be the same. If this were to be done, comma, brr. If this were to be done, comma, brr. Okay? We don't want to use too many stamps, but that's a good one. All right? But okay, so now I think you've got band six or seven here. If we do this, ooh, that looks good. Now I think band 7 for sure. Ah, wow.
So cohesion again, right? This
more this there, yeah. But what I'm loving here is that would. It shows really good grammar control, and it's easy to do. Yeah, I'm trying to give you things which are, not too tricky. We could even push it a little bit further and say, thus, therefore, thus, there would be fewer cars on the road. Okay?
Okay.
All right. That's just one example of where you can use a complex sentence. Now, I could give you lots of other examples, but that would be a lesson on using complex sentences.
Not the speaking for today, right?
Well, not the writing. But yeah, so it's like I'm trying to cover as much as I can on a certain level. If I go into too much depth, we turn into like a 50-hour, 100-hour course. Okay?
Yes.
So, all right. So I'm going to move on from that, but we're looking for places to put complex sentences.
Okay.
All right. Now, also, we want to look at accuracy. In terms of the accuracy being correct, there are big errors and there are small errors. Big errors will damage your score very quickly. For example, clauses and sentences.
Okay.
So if you don't use commas and full stops correctly, if you don't put a verb into a sentence, that is that makes big damage to your score. Okay? So please check your clauses and sentences. But then there are lots of smaller errors which are very common and we need to eliminate. Very common would be, for example, he works or he enjoys to travel. Is that correct or that's not correct, is it? He works.
It's correct.
He works, correct. He enjoys to travel, correct or not correct?
He enjoys traveling.
Ah, very good. At least band 4, Jay. Very good.
At least, wow.
I'm joking, I'm teasing. You're very good. What about this one? Smaller errors. The government should reduce tax. Government should reduce tax, or the government should reduce tax, or governments should reduce tax. So we need to say either specifically the government, as in the Thai government or a specific government, or governments in general.
Like in general, like around the world, something like that, right?
Exactly. And this is a big, very common error. Very common error. Okay. What about this one? This is a common error. The Bangkok Post reported a good news yesterday. Any ideas?
The Bangkok Post reported a good news. Not a good news.
What, you mean there's never any good news in Thailand?
No.
Oh, sorry. I don't mean that, everybody. I love Thailand. But go on.
But news, just one news, right?
Yeah. Let's
so it should be correct, right?
Let's move on. The Bangkok Post reported some good news yesterday. Okay? So news is not a singular countable noun. It's an uncountable noun. So we either say some good news or a piece of good news.
Okay.
Yeah? It's like information. You can't say an information. It's a piece of information or some information. So check out those countables and uncountables.
Okay.
Then, look at this one. There is many soy dogs in Bangkok. Come on, easy.
Soy dogs. There is and dogs. Not get along.
Well done. Now, I bet you don't know this one. People should avoid to eat too much sugar.
Should avoid eating Too much
Jay,
sugar,
you're so
right?
good. You're so
Whoa.
good. You really are on fire today. There is steady increase in levels of alcoholism. Alcoholism is an addiction to alcohol. Okay. What's missing here?
There are steady increase. No. Then
Increase is a noun, and it's a single countable noun. A steady increase.
A steady. Okay.
Because it's an increase. Okay.
Oh. Okay.
Sometimes when we describe a noun with an adjective here, students forget to put the article because of the gap between the two. Yeah. So even though we have an adjective, the a is connected to increase. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now where are we? However, that should have a. Oh no, I know that's a mistake. Yeah. What's the mistake here?
A pollution?
No.
The pollution? No.
This is a punctuation error. Think about commas.
However, comma, right?
Yes. Every time you write however, it must be separated from the rest of the sentence with a comma. So if you put however at the end, you would say pollution from industry is also a factor, comma, however, full stop.
I see.
Or pollution, comma, however, comma, from industry is also a factor. Or probably pollution from industry, comma, however, comma. But anyway, always commas.
Okay.
Young people are generally good in computing. He doesn't know.
It's correct.
It's not good at computing. This is collocation, isn't it, actually?
Yes.
Words that go together. Okay. So look, these are examples of common smaller errors that students make. And students need to get rid of as many errors as they can. Okay? So how can you eliminate means get rid of, how can you eliminate these errors? Okay? I think I got two ideas. Number one, be aware of the type of errors that you make. So here you may need somebody to help you, at least initially. If you can get somebody to check your work, somebody with good English or a native speaker, or don't email me, I think I'll have too many coming. But if you get somebody to check your work and to tell you the type of error that you make, or you can look and decide what type of errors do I make. So, it's an uncountable noun, my comma here, or my the plural, or verb agreement, there are many soy dogs, this kind of thing. Once you've got a list, you can then use that list to check your own work. So what we're doing is, and I've put this word in red, we're being systematic about it. Rather than just like, I'll try and do better next time, we're being systematic. Okay? And I think the other thing you can do is check your work in waves. So here's my essay. Here's my 250-word essay. I'm going to check it. Okay? So this is not in the exam. This is at home when you're trying to get better, when you're practicing. So first of all, I'm going to check it. Now, what do I make mistakes with? Articles. So I'm going to read my essay and I'm going to look only for articles.
Okay.
Look for mistakes. Correct. Okay, what's the other thing I meant? I'm always getting my plurals wrong. So I'm going to check it for plurals.
Okay.
Then I'm going to check it for commas. I'm going to check it for this. I'm going to check it for this. I'm going to check. So you have a thorough, focused improvement.
Okay.
And this should help you to improve quickly. Does that make sense, Jay?
Yes, makes sense. Like if we can create a system to check it, it would be like really easy to check the mistake.
It's like everything in life, isn't it? It's like when we go shopping, it's good to have a shopping list.
Yeah,
the list. Be a little bit more systematic about things. It makes it much more efficient. So, okay. So that's my advice in terms of grammar. I can't teach you lots and lots and lots of grammar, but I think that's a good system for you to improve.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to wrap up the writing session now, just to remind you what the examiner's looking for. You should know what all these are now. I'm not going to go through them again. But I'll give you some final advice on the writing, which is, number one, check and improve your work as if you were an examiner. So now you know what the examiner is looking for. You can look at your work through the examiner's eyes. Secondly, check your work in waves. I just explained that a second ago. I think you should read lots of model essays. When I say model essay, I mean a perfect essay. Well, what's perfect? But a very, very good essay. You can find them on the internet. Yeah.
Okay.
Read lots of model essays and highlight. I always get my students to have highlighter pens and highlight the useful language. Look at the grammar. Look at the words and collocations. Also, remember words that go together. Notice the coherence, how the sentences follow, and the cohesion, how it's locked together with linking words and pronouns and synonyms and so on. Okay. And what do you think my final tip is going to be?
Practice.
Yay!
Oh.
Bingo. Practice, practice, and practice. You'll be surprised at how quickly you see a change in your writing. Okay? It really is about practicing, but practicing with a system. And don't forget what I talked about with planning last time as well, how important it is to plan, and that you should practice planning as well as practice writing. Okay?
Okay.
That's all I want to say about writing. Maybe at this point, Jay, I don't know if anybody, you want to do a couple of questions or you want to go straight into speaking? It's up to you.
You can like open your speaking slides now if you have.
I will.
Yeah. Then I'll check for some question.
Okay.
ถ้าใครมีคำถามอะไรนะครับช่วงนี้ถามมาได้ก่อนเลยนะครับเดี๋ยวคุณวิชาจะเปิดสไลด์ของ speaking เตรียมไว้ก่อน So by the way, what is soy dog? There are so many questions
Oh,
about
really?
soy.
So we Farangs, we talk about soy dogs as being the dogs that live in the streets but don't have any owners.
I see. So you call it soy.
Call it
Just
soy
like
dog, yeah.
Okay.
What do you guys call it then?
Well, in Thai we call it หมาจรจัด
Ma dong jak.
Yeah.
I can never remember the word ma. I always say sunak. And people say, no, that's not the right word. It's too formal. I can't never remember the ma. But sunak easy.
But your pronunciation is correct.
Yeah. Okay.
หมา
Ma. Is there any questions apart from what are soy dogs? Any other questions?
How to plan writing in time?
Well, I talked about that on the last lesson, and that's about practicing planning as a specific, discrete skill. So you could take 20 essays, and you could practice planning them without writing them.
Okay, just plan for 20 times.
It's about, look at the last lesson and look at the kind of paragraph plan that I showed for that. I showed a paragraph about the benefits of tourism, and I showed a plan. And if you can start to plan like that, showing the connection of your ideas, and then just practice and practice, it gets quicker. It gets quicker. Okay.
And there are more questions. Like, if you want to get band 7, should you look or study at the band 9, 8 or 9 essay?
I think that what you should be looking at is language which is above your level, your current level, but not way beyond.
Okay.
So I don't know. It's difficult. It's a difficult question, that one. I mean, in terms of organization, a band 9 essay is going to be really, really good. But sometimes when we get to band 9, we break the rules. Because the language is so good, we can break the rules, some of the rules I'm suggesting. Okay? So, but you definitely should look at high-level essays, yeah, for sure.
Why not, right?
Why not?
Okay. Okay, Richard, so we have like 25 more minutes. I think we should get straight to the speaking part.
Yeah, okay. So, let's share let's make it whole screen. Here we go. So, yeah, here we go. IELTS speaking. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the speaking exam looks like, first of all, okay? There are 3 parts to the speaking exam. Part 1, part 2, and part 3.
Wow.
I know. The exam it's not scary. It's you and one other person. There's not like a whole panel of people. It's one examiner and one candidate.
Okay.
And you're sitting in a room and there's a little tape recorder, granddad, a little digital recorder on the table. If you're doing UKVI, there's a camera, okay? But that's just for security, for extra security. So you sit there and the examiner asks you lots of questions. And he takes you very smoothly through part 1, part 2, part 3. Okay. My advice to you is to let the examiner control the situation. Okay? So you go and you do part 1, and we can see here it says, let's get my pointer. It says here, the examiner will ask you some general questions about yourself and a range of familiar topics. So you should know something about these topics.
Okay.
Such as home, where you live, your family, your work or your studies, or your interests. I don't know. There are other things they might ask you. They might ask you about, I don't know, do you enjoy photography? Do you enjoy travel? What else could they ask you? Something about the clothes that you wear.
Okay.
Really,
hairstyle?
Hair, maybe hair. Not had that one ever, but could be. Shopping or anything. But these topics are very everyday kind of topics. Okay? And the examiner asks you a question and you answer. And he asks you a question and you answer. And he asks you a question and so on. Okay? You should try to give not very long answers, but not one-word answers either. Okay? Yes, no, yes, no, no. Yes, I think so, because that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
In part 2, the examiner gives you a card. Okay, it gives you a card, a bit of paper. Well, actually, it gives you like a book, and there's a topic in this book. Okay, and the topic is about a particular topic. The card is about a particular topic, and you have to talk about the instructions on the card for 2 minutes. I'm going to show you some examples. Okay. So you have to talk for 2 minutes about this topic. It's such a long time, but it's not really. The examiner will give you 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. Now that 1 minute is not very long, but it can be useful if you use it constructively, and I'll talk about that later as well. Okay. So you have 1 minute. He gives you some paper and pencil to write with. Okay, you can make some notes. So you talk for 2 minutes, and then the examiner will ask you 1 or 2 follow-up questions. These are just little questions. You don't have to give big answers. And in fact, often the examiner wants to move on to the next part. So just boom, 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 and on you go. Okay. You get onto part 3, and you're asked further questions about the topic in part 2. However, this is different. For example, you're going to talk about more abstract ideas. Let me give you an example. In part 2, the topic is something about, I don't know, describe a time that you went shopping with your friends. So I don't know, something like that. Blah, 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 blah. Went shopping, went to Paragon, la la la. Okay. In part 3, the questions will be related to that topic of shopping, but they're going to be more, I don't know, difficult. So it might be something like, do you think that
Paragon is a good shopping mall something like that
well, not sure about Paragon, but they might say, do you think shopping malls are a good way to shop?
Okay. So
Do you think that people shop too much these days? If
So
if they think you're a strong candidate, they will ask you more difficult questions. So they might say, do you think that our society is too materialistic? That means, people are just into buying, shopping. Okay. If you don't understand a question, you can clarify it with the examiner. Not in part 1, but in part 2 and part 3, you can ask the clarification. So that's basically what the exam looks like. The first part is 4 to 5 minutes. The second part, 1 minute prep, 2 minutes talking. The third part, 4 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
So, any questions about that, Jay?
Nope. It's general idea of the test.
All right. We also need to look at, again, the target. What is the examiner looking for? Because it's a little bit different. Right? This time we have this. Task achievement is not here. There is no task achievement. So the examiner cannot assess you on if you answered the question or not. Now that's important. Because students often say, what if I don't have any ideas?
Yes.
And we'll come back to that later.
Okay.
You can't just talk about anything. But there's no specific task achievement criteria.
Okay.
That's good news, right?
Yes.
Yes. Then we have fluency and coherence. Okay. Oh, actually, no, I'm going to go through these one by one.
Okay.
Well, fluency and coherence, lexical resource is the same. Fluency I'll come back to. Grammatical range and accuracy is the same. And then pronunciation is new. Okay. So let me talk about the new things. For example, fluency.
Okay.
What is fluency? Oh no, sorry. These are new slides. I'm sorry.
Never mind.
Sorry, guys. I made these slides especially for you. I know. This is task achievement and we don't have it, which means that you have to stay roughly on topic, but you don't have to stay exactly on topic.
I see.
Well, why not? Because if you look like you have prepared your speech beforehand, like you've just learned it as a script, like an actor with a script, you will score 0.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. So don't think, I can say anything and just learn a script. Okay? You need to practice ideas.
Okay.
You need to stay roughly on topic, but not exactly. So the students say this. The question asked me to talk about blah, 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 blah. But I have nothing to say. Can I talk about something else? So yes, you can. So the question is, I'd like you to describe a book that you've read recently. This could be part 2. All right. You could say, well, actually, this is when you start your 2 minutes. You could say, actually, you know what? I never read. It's something that, you know what? I'm a little bit embarrassed about, but I just never read. I much prefer to listen to audiobooks, which I do regularly. Now, some of the
And can I continue talking about the audiobook instead of the book? Oh, okay. That's nice.
Imagine if you've never read a book in your life. Well, you can't talk about it, can you?
Yes, we can't.
So just find something related to it.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
But it's roughly on topic, and you're showing that you can communicate. You can say, do you know what? In fact, Mr. Examiner, I've never read a book. I hate reading. It's the worst thing in the world. Okay. So what I do is I do this instead. Well, that sounds to me like good communication, right? So that's what the exam's about.
Okay.
Now,
Richard, when you were talking, I have some question like, while you were talking, you use your feeling, your action. Does that count as a point?
Well, there is no criteria for gesticulation, for gesture, but it will give an overall impression of good communication. But there is no criteria for body language.
Okay.
But it will help, of course. The examiner is a person, not a robot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I often tell my students if they're for coherence and cohesion, I say, well, I think there are two main reasons. The first reason is na. But then again, there's another reason. Na. Yeah. Now that's using my hand and it's adding to the coherence. Okay. But in fact, I'm using words as well. Okay. Let's go on. I'll talk about fluency. What does fluency mean? True or false? To speak fluently, you need to speak quickly. True or false? To speak fluent. Oh, hang on. Hang on.
True.
To speak fluently, you need to avoid pausing. That means stopping. And the third thing, silence is always bad in the speaking interview. What do you think? True or false, everybody?
False.
True. Okay. So the first one is, what do you think, Jay?
I think false.
It is false. You don't have to speak quickly. You have to speak at a natural speed.
Okay.
Now, if you speak very slowly, like, I really enjoy taking photographs, it's too slow, and that will affect your fluency.
Okay.
But if you go, I really enjoy taking photographs, A, it's not natural, and B, you will make more mistakes because you're speaking more quickly than is natural. So slow down to a natural speed, like I'm speaking now. Okay. It would be perfect. So not too quick, not too slow.
Okay.
What about the second one? You need to avoid pausing.
No, false. We can pause.
You can. When is it okay to pause?
Breathing.
Yes, you must breathe. I have had a couple of candidates who have actually died because they stopped breathing in the exam. It's not, so they scored 0, obviously. But yeah, you need to avoid pausing is not true. If you are thinking of a word and you can't think of that word and you pause, that's not good. Okay? But if you're thinking of an idea, like if you were speaking Thai, you have to think of an idea sometimes.
Yes.
That's okay. And the examiner will make a distinction. They will see the difference between the two. So don't panic if you're thinking of an idea. Sometimes teachers tell students to say, that's an interesting question, which is, yeah, you can do that. I think it's okay to say, I think that, something like that, which is what we do. Okay. Not too much, but a little bit. Okay. Silence is always bad in the speaking exam.
Always? No.
Do you want to say why, Jay?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that there are times when we use silence to communicate something. So like I was saying earlier. So there are two reasons. The first one is da-da-da-da-da-da. And the second one is that, so I'm actually pausing a little bit there. And that's part of communication. Okay. All right. So that's fluency. Coherence is linked together with fluency here, but it's the same as in your writing. Everything should be logical in its shape and flow. All right. God, look at the time.
Oh my gosh.
But we've got one more lesson to go, right? So I can finish the next lesson. Okay. Good. Lexical resource. So there's a difference here in lexical resource It's the same but different as in the writing. All right. One of the differences is that your writing your vocabulary in the speaking should be more informal. So in the writing, we're using a fairly formal style, but in the speaking, it's more informal. It's not like a formal presentation. I always say, imagine you're having a conversation with somebody quite intelligent, like it could be a university teacher, but you're having it in Starbucks. Okay. That kind of level. So we want it informal. And we're also looking for idiomatic language. What's that, I hear you say? Well, a good example of idiomatic language is phrasal verbs. I'll give you a couple of examples of these kind of language. So first of all, let's look at informal. So sometimes when students are speaking in the exam, they say they're telling something, blah, 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 and they go, moreover, da, 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 da. And I just want to put a bag over my head because it's horrible. Moreover is far too formal for speaking. Far too formal. And it sounds strange. If you were making a speech as like, Prime Minister or somebody, you could use moreover, but not it's too formal for our purposes. So we could say, another thing is, or something like that would be.
And is it like, oh, that's one more thing. And
yes,
blah, blah, blah.
Good, very good. Or you could say something like, oh, it was really amazing. Sounds great, right? It sounds natural. That kind of level of formality. And then I've given you a couple of examples here of phrasal verbs because phrasal verbs are a really good way of introducing idiomatic language. So, for example, my teacher always encouraged us to look up new words in a dictionary. Where's the phrasal verb there, Jay?
I don't know.
Good for you. Look up.
Look up. Okay.
So look up doesn't mean look up.
Nah.
Okay? It means to search for.
Okay.
Yeah? So this is an example of idiomatic language. And this is an easy way to get idiomatic language into your speaking. Here, the second example, I've read that. It's quite informal. I've read that. According to, didn't know, I've read that most COVID patients get over the illness quite easily. This is a fact. In fact, most patients do get over it quite easily. What's the phrasal verb here?
Get over?
Get over. And it means recover from.
Okay.
Yeah. So these would be examples. So try and use a few phrasal verbs when you're doing your speaking. Okay.
Okay.
Would be good.
Can we use like slangs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can. Now, I'm wondering what to do now, Jade. Look, it's 5-2 already, and I haven't really. I want to talk about grammar, and I want to talk about practicing, and I want to talk about planning. So maybe we should. Just wonder if I could do the grammar now. No, I can't. It's too much. Too much.
Okay.
So shall we stop and do a bit more Q&A?
Okay, cool. So ทุกคนครับตอนนี้อีก5นาทีถามเข้ามาได้เลยนะครับเดี๋ยวเจจะถามคุณริชาร์ดให้นะครับ So should I put the slide down now?
Yeah, let's put the slides down.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry guys, my timing is terrible at the moment. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Oh. So, accent. Should we have like British accent or whatever accent? Does that count as a point?
So this is about pronunciation, yeah? And the main thing about pronunciation is intelligibility. That means...
What is it?
Intelligibility. That means, can the examiner understand you? So if the examiner can't understand you at all, you're down in band 3 or 4.
Okay.
If he understands you or she understands you, but they struggle a little, you're in band 5. If it's okay, but not accurate, you're in band 6. if you start to sound natural, like you start to use your intonation, your stress, like I'm doing now, if you sound natural, then you're up in band 7 and 8 and so on.
Okay.
Accent, not important at all.
Okay. So intonation.
Intonation and stress is very important.
Okay.
But accent not.
Okay.
If you have a very strong American accent because you've been to international school in Bangkok, then you're going to get band 9. Okay?
Okay. Okay. ก็ดังนั้นนะครับ accent ไม่ได้มีผลขนาดนั้นนะครับแต่ว่าการเน้นคำ natural อะไรเงี้ยแบบว่ามันจะมีแบบใน natural อย่างเงี้ยต้องเน้นคำไหนมันจะมีแบบว่าบอกอยู่ว่าแบบแต่ละคำควรจะเน้นที่คำไหนนะครับอาจจะต้องลองไปท่องต้องลองไปแบบฟังบ่อยๆฝึกพูดบ่อยๆดูหนังอะไรพวกนี้ช่วยได้ครับDoes grammar that important in speaking?
Yes.
Okay.
It's 25% of the marks.
Okay.
You got fluency and coherence, lexical resource, pronunciation, and grammar.
Okay.
25% of the marks.
So fluency and grammar, the weight the same, right?
Yeah. I'll talk about grammar in the next lesson. I'm going to give you some quite nice examples of how you can get, like for example, use lots of past tenses and so on. So I'll talk about that next time.
Okay. Oh, interesting question. Like, can we use wanna instead of want to?
Sure.
I wanna be. Okay.
Sure. I mean, that for me sounds good. It sounds very natural. Yeah. So it's back to this idea of it's about using connected sounds. Yeah. And we don't say I'm going to. We say I'm gonna. I'm gonna do this. It's natural.
Okay.
I'm gonna because gonna is it doesn't matter. I won't go into pronunciation lesson. But basically, yeah, we make these sounds very small. If you want to make a second conditional, you'd say, if I did this, I'd do this. And you don't say I would, but I'd. It's the same kind of idea. Yeah.
Okay. Is it okay to self-correct sometimes?
That's an interesting one. It is, but you have to balance how much self-correction with fluency. Because if you self-correct too much, it will affect your fluency.
Okay.
I would say it depends on the size of the error. If it's a small error, just move on. But if it was like, say it was like a very impressive piece of grammar and you made a mess of it, but you know it, yeah, you could reformulate it. You could say it again.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't have a clear answer for that one. I'm sorry.
So what if like I'm saying he thinks like this? Should I just get away from it or?
Well, I think what the reformulation or self-correction is that you would say, the student would say he thinks and would go back. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the deal. So doing that obviously affects fluency.
Okay.
So that's what students tend to do. They go back and correct. So it's a balancing act, like many things in life. It's a balancing act.
Okay. Well, how should they practice?
Now I've got a lot to say about this, and I'm going to talk about it tomorrow.
Okay.
So I won't preempt that now, but I will talk about it tomorrow. I'm sorry, it's a bit messy, isn't it? Me just doing a little bit of the session.
It's okay.
That's the way the whatever. It's the way the penny's falling. Is that even an expression? The way the penny's falling? It's not even an expression.
No. So can we ask something back to the examiner?
Yes.
Yeah, should we do that?
You can. Oh, you mean asking questions?
Yes.
What, like are you married? No. But you could say things. You can ask for clarification.
Okay.
So, for example, when he gives you the card in part 2, you can say, "Oh, I don't know what does this word mean?" Or in part 3, you can reformulate the question. So, if he says, do you think shopping malls are a good way to shop? You could say, by shopping, so you don't know what a shopping mall is, right? You could say, so by shopping malls, you mean like Paragon and Icon Siam? You go, yeah. Okay, great, yeah. Like that kind of thing you can ask.
Okay, but we cannot ask like, do you like to go to Paragon? No. Okay.
No. Well, you can, but the examiner will just smile or not and move on.
Okay.
Most examiners are quite nice, but not all. I could tell you one or two names who are not,
Okay.
but not here.
Okay, so I think our characteristic doesn't have something to do with the score, right? So if we are friendly, if we like smiley, that's nothing for the examiner.
Well, like I said earlier, the examiner is not a machine; it's a person. So there is no mark for friendly. Friendly 6 out. Band 6 for friendly. No. But it adds to the general communication. So, they shouldn't give you more marks for being friendly or not friendly, but they're people, so you should try and make a good impression. Don't be horrible, obviously.
Okay. I think that's all. Do you have like something to add on?
No.
Nope.
Because I'm going to add it on tomorrow.
Okay.
Not tomorrow.
Friday.
I've got to go. I'm going shopping with my mum now. We're actually going to the big shopping mall nearby.
Okay. So describe the shopping mall.
Well, it's a large shopping mall near a motorway. And I personally don't like shopping malls. So for me, it's quite soulless and depressing. But it's very convenient because it has lots of shops indoors, which of course in Bangkok is good because it's too hot outdoors. But here in the UK at the moment, it's too wet outdoors. So we can stay nice and dry.
Okay, I give you band 7.
Oh, you're so mean.
โอเคทุกคนครับวันนี้ก็เรียบร้อยนะครับก็ขอบคุณทุกคนที่มาติดตามฟังกันนะครับถึงแม้วันนี้อาจจะได้ speaking ไม่เยอะมากประมาณสักครึ่งหนึ่งแต่ว่า grammar เองเนี่ยมันก็มา adapt ใช้ได้ทั้งกับ writing แล้วก็ speaking ด้วยเหมือนกันนะครับคำถามอะไรที่พิมพ์กันมาเนี่ยผมอาจจะถามบ้างไม่ถามบ้างก็ยังไงขออภัยไว้ด้วยละกันนะครับยังไงรอบหน้านะครับวันศุกร์ยังมากันอีกรอบนึงเป็น speaking รอบที่2นะครับแล้วก็จะมีข้อมูลอะไรมีเทคนิคมาให้ลองนะครับแล้วก็เดี๋ยวจะมาเจอเจก็จะมาช่วยถามคำถามให้บ้างเหมือนวันนี้เนี่ยแหละนะครับก็เจอกันพรุ่งนี้ไม่ใช่สิวันศุกร์นะครับผม so today Jay and Richard are leaving right now because Richard is going to a shopping mall okay so have a nice day everyone bye bye